The Simpit Indycar series headed off to England for 28 laps of full-throttle racing at Silverstone Historic GP. This extremely fast track features a mostly flat surface with 16 turns and comes in at 2.93 miles. Starting from the pole, and the top qualifier this week was Naruko Ishida with a lap time of 1:19.926, which ended up being only 1/1000th faster than Ricardo Skyvon, who started on the outside of the front row, and a serious shootout between these two was set up for the day. The pace car dropped in and Ishida brought the field down the front stretch. As the race went green, Ishida gassed it and got a small lead over Skyvon. Dimitri Jonas started in third and got a jump on Skyvon to the inside as they went too wide into turn one. Coming off of the corner, Skyvon got the position and the entire field got going clean. By the end of the first lap, the field had already strung out a bit. Ishida was out to a 5-car length lead over Skyvon, with Jonas in third, Alex Saunders in fourth, and Michael Marneef in fifth. On lap 3, we saw our first trouble of the day. While running behind my teammate, I panic braked a bit and looped the car. I got it back underway, but was dropped back to the rear of the grid. By lap 5, the top 5 were still in the same running order. Ishida's lead had grown very slightly over Skyvon, with Jonas, who was still right behind him. It was a slight gap back to Saunders and Marneef in 4th and 5th. At this point in time, the best racing on the track was a battle for 8th between Gerard van Langeveld and Stefan Roosgen, who had been battling for a handful of laps, with van Langeveld leading the way. You also had Ryan Littlemore running in 10th, who had moved up from a 14th starting position, running behind them, looking for his own way through. On lap 10, Roosgen checked up slightly in turn 1. This allowed Littlemore to carry plenty of speed and get a run on Langeveld as they entered the twisty section up ahead. They went too wide in the left-hander, and this forced Langeveld off the track to the inside. He came back onto the track right into the path of Littlemore, and this basically ended both of their days. Up front, by the end of the 10th lap, Naruko Ishida's lead had grown even more over Skyvon, still in second, who now had a mirror full of Dimitri Jonas in third. Then a few seconds back of them was Alex Saunders, who still had the tail of Nigel Marneef, and from there back, the field had really started to string out a little bit. Lap 12, while running 11th, I had caught up to Dario Rikov in 10th. Coming down Hanger Straight, Rikov protected the inside line, so I made a move to the outside. He cleared me for a moment, but I pushed hard on the inside line to the next corner. I forced him off the driving line in a not-so-nice way and took over the 10th spot. Lap 13, Liam Quinn, running in 12th place, was the first to head for pit lane, a lap earlier than expected for most drivers. By the halfway mark, Naruko Ishida's lead was a solid 2 seconds over the tandem of Skyvon and Jonas. It was then about 4 seconds back to Saunders and Marneef, and it was another 4 seconds back to Eric Davis in 6th, and right behind him was Marco Kika, who made his way for pit lane at the halfway mark. Running in 8th, and now about 6 seconds back of Davis, was van Langeveld, now running all alone. In 9th place was John Hill, about 5 seconds behind him, with me slightly back in 10th. Lap 15, and John Hill made a move for pit lane, running in 8th. I followed him in from 9th, and Dario Rikov in 10th also went to pit lane behind us. Hill sped going into pit lane and was held for a penalty, allowing me and Rikov to leave pit lane ahead of him. When I got off pit lane, I was now back behind Liam Quinn, who took over 9th place and jumped up 3 spots in the pit rotations. Lap 16, and Eric Davis went for pit lane all alone from 6th, and so did Langeveld in 7th. On lap 17, I got a run on Liam Quinn down the backstretch. He also protected the inside line, and I went to the outside of him and took back 9th place. Later on that same lap, Dimitri Jonas, running in 3rd place, went to pit lane for fuel and tires. At the same time, the battle between Saunders and Marneef had reached its peak. Marneef, who had patiently sat behind Saunders all race, made his move and was able to make his way past him after a few corners of side-by-side racing. Saunders decided that was a good time to make his move for pit lane, with Marneef continuing on, now in 4th. Lap 18 and Naruko's lead over Skyvon was about the same. However, going down the backstretch, he ran out of gas. Skyvon goes by easily, but Ishida was now a long way from pit lane with a sputtering engine. Later that same lap, while still under power, Riccardo Skyvon headed for pit lane, now in the lead, and all eyes would be on Dimitri Jonas, who had been running right on his gearbox before he entered the pits a lap earlier. Marnif, who was virtually now running in second place, also went to pit lane for service. As Skyvon came off pit lane, Jonas was making his way through turn 1. This put them side by side by the twisty section, and we saw something reminiscent of the altercation between Littlemore and Rosejen, with Skyvon being the one sent off into the grass. He did a great job of keeping it forward and rejoining the track. However, Dimitri Jonas was now in the lead of the race with just under 9 laps to go. Meanwhile, Ishida somehow nursed that car all the way back to pit lane and got his fuel and tires. But when he came out of the pits, he was now behind Dario Rikov and all the way back to 11th place. With Jonas now in the lead and Skyvon running in second, Marnif came off pit lane and returned to the track. He was now in 3rd place, and he was just slightly ahead of Alex Saunders in 4th, just like they were before pit rotations. Eric Davis was comfortably running in 5th, and it wasn't very far back to Marco Kika in 6th. Gerard van Langeveld was now in 7th, with me now running in 8th, Liam Quinn in 9th, and Dario Rikov rounding out the top 10. Lap 20, and while still trying to get me back, Liam Quinn got on the gas a little too hard and spun the car off the final corner. This let Rikov and Ishida get by, and by the beginning of lap 21, Ishida had caught up to and very aggressively went by Rikov into turn 1, putting Ishida up to 9th position. With 5 laps to go in the race, Dimitri Jonas had a little over a 2-second lead over Skyvon. It was then nearly 10 seconds back to Nigel Marnif in 3rd, who was still dealing with Alex Saunders in 4th. And still running all alone was Eric Davis in 5th. Towards the end of that same lap, Ishida had caught up to and went by me, taking over 8th, with a bit over 4 laps left in the race. With 2 laps to go in the race, Dimitri Jonas was leading Skyvon by almost 3 seconds, and Marnif had built up almost a 2-second lead over Saunders in 4th. A little further back, Davis's lead over Kika had shrunk to less than 2 seconds as a potential battle for 5th built up. But despite these battles being possible, things would finish mostly unchanged as Dimitri Jonas went on to win the race by 3.3 seconds over Riccardo Skyvon in 2nd. Nigel Marnif continued on to finish in 3rd over Alex Saunders in 4th, and Eric Davis fought off any last-minute charges by Kika and finished in 5th, with Marco Kika finishing in 6th. Gerard van Langeveld ran a solid 7th place race, with Naruko Ishida clawing his way back into an 8th place finish. I brought it home in 9th place, with Dario Rikov rounding out the top 10. After 9 races and only 3 left in the season, Riccardo Skyvon's lead has almost grown to an unbeatable margin. He sits in the lead with 855 points over me, who is now in 2nd place with only 674. Just 3 points back of me is John Hill with 671, and Alex Saunders is in 4th with 618. Nigel Marnif is in 5th place with 584. Next week we'll start dropping races, and that will affect the point standings as we head into round 10 at Pocono, the 2.5 mile long high-speed tri-oval that resides in Pennsylvania. If you would like more information on this series or to see more videos like this one, please head over to thesimpit.com and look for the IndyCar Series tab. Congratulations once again to Dimitri Jonas on his victory, and we will see you next week at Pocono.